Mr. Bryant, he certainly got a grand garden, observed Peter. That's so, Mr. Watson, assented Alick. He got fine garden. Seems like I never did see sick melons bigger bull layin' there. I don't reckon anybody in this here country can hold it with Mr. Bryant when comes to melons. That's so, Mr. Washington. They did not talk of watermelons until their heads held nothing else, as the phrase goes. But they talked of watermelons until when Peter started for home that night over a lonely road they held a certain dominant position in his mind. Alick had come with him as far as the fence in order to protect him from a possible attack by the mongrels. They had been cheerfully parted, two honest men. The night was dark and heavy with moisture. Peter found it uncomfortable to walk rapidly. He merely loitered on the road when opposite C. Bryant's place. He paused and looked over the fence into the garden. He imagined he could see the form of a huge melon lying in dim stateness. Not 10 yards away. He looked at the Bryant house. The two windows downstairs were lighted. The Bryants kept no dog, old C's favourite child, having once been bitten by a dog and having since died within that year of pneumonia. Peering over the fence, Peter fancied that if any low-minded night prowler should happen to note the melon, he would not find it difficult to possess himself of it. This person would merely wait until the lights were out in the house and the people presumably asleep. Then he would climb the fence, reach the melon in a few strides, sever the stem with his ready knife, and in a trice be back in the road with his prize. There need be no noise, and after all the house was some distance. Selecting a smooth bit of turf, Peter took a seat by the roadside. From time to time he glanced at the lighted windows. When Peter and Alick had said goodbye, the old man turned back in the rocky field and shaped a slow course toward that high dim light which marked the little window of his shanty. It would be incorrect to say that Alick could think of nothing but watermelons, but it was true that C. Bryant's watermelon patch occupied a certain conspicuous position in his thoughts. He sighed. He almost wished that he was again a conscienceless pickaninny, instead of being one of the most ornate, solemn, and look-at-me sinner deacons that ever graced the handle of collection basket. At this time it made him quite sad to reflect upon his granite integrity. A weaker man might perhaps bow his moral head to the temptation, but for him such a fall was impossible. He was a prince of the church, and if he had been 9 princes of the church, he could not have been more proud. In fact, religion was to the old man a sort of personal dignity, and he was on Sundays so obstrusively good that you could see his sanctity through a door. He forced it on you until you would have felt its influence, even in a forecastle. It was clear in his mind that he must put watermelon thoughts from him, and after a moment he told himself with much ostentation that he had done so. But it was cooler under the sky than in the shanty, and as he was not sleepy, he decided to take a stroll down to C. Bryant's place and look at the melons from a pinnacle of spotless innocence. Reaching the road, he paused to listen. It would not do to let Peter hear him, but because that graceless rapscallion would probably misunderstand him. But, assuring himself that Peter was well on his way, he set out walking briskly until he was within 400 yards of Bryant's place. Here he went on the side of the road and walked thereafter on damp, yielding turf. He made no sound. He did not go on that point in the main road which was directly opposite the watermelon patch. He did not wish to have his ascetic contemplation disturbed by some chance wayfarer. He turned off along a short lane which led to C. Bryant's barn. Here he reached a place where he could see over the fence and faint shapes of the melons. Alick was affected. The house was some distance away. There was no dog, and doubtless the Bryants would soon extinguish their light and go to bed. Then some poor lost lamb of sin might come and scale the fence, reach a melon in a moment, and sever the stem with his ready knife, and in a trice be back in the road with his prize. and this poor lost lamb of sin might even be a bishop, but no one would ever know it. Alex singled out with his eye of a very large melon and thought that the lamb would prove his judgment if he took that one. He found a soft place in the grass and arranged himself comfortably. He watched the lights in the windows. Another chapter. Fuck knows why, they could have just put it in one long one. It seemed to Peter Washington that the Bryants absolutely consulted their own wishes in regard to the time of retiring, but at last he saw the lighted windows fade briskly from left to right, and after a moment a window on the second floor blazed out against the darkness. As he was going to bed in 5 minutes, this window abruptly vanished, and all the world was night. Peter spent the ensuing quarter hour in no mental debate. His mind was fixed. He was here, and the melon was there. He would have it, but an idea of being caught appalled him. He thought of his position. He was the beau of the community, honoured right and left. He pictured the consternation of his friends and the cheers of his enemies if the hands of the redoubtable C. Bryant should grip him in his shame. He arose and, going to the fence, listened. No sound broke the stillness, save the rhythmical incessant clicking of the myriad insects and the guttural chanting of the frogs in the reeds of the lakeside. Moved by the sudden decision, he climbed the fence and crept silently and swiftly down upon the melon. His open knife was in his hand. There was the melon, cool, fair to see, as pompous in its fatness as the cook in a monastery. Peter put out a hand to steady it while he cut the stem, but at the instant he was aware that a black form had dropped over the fence, lying the lane in front of him, and was coming stealthily toward him in a palsy of terror. He dropped flat upon the ground, not having strength enough to run away. The next moment he was looking into the amazed and agonized face of old Alec Williams. There was a moment of loaded silence, and then Peter was overcome by a mad inspiration. He suddenly dropped the knife. He leaped upon Alec. "I gotcha!" he hissed. "I gotcha! I gotcha!" The old man sank down as limp as a rag. "I gotcha! I gotcha! Still, Miss Brian's bellums where?" Alec, in a low voice, began to beg. "Oh, Miss Peter Waddington, don't go fatter here. The old man never come till I'm dead. I need a Miss Washington. Yeah, but you feel him. Oh, please, Miss Washington. Come along out here, you old rip," said Peter, "and don't trample on those braids of twine. What put your wine on one kid, cull?" Without difficulty he tumbled the whining Alec over the fence to the roadway and followed him with sheriff-like expedition. He took him by the scruff. "Come along, Deacon, I reckon Graham put you kin pray, Deacon. Come along, Deacon." The emphasis and reiteration of his layman's title in the church produced a deadly effect upon Alec. He felt to his marrow and heinous crime in which this treacherous knight had betrayed him. As Peter marched his prisoner up the road toward the mouth of the lane, he continued his remark. "Come along, Deacon. Never see a man so anxious that I care about ere melon patch, and Deacon seek like this must see him grow and feel. Deacon, Miss Bryan here was surprised. Deacon finding out your foot feel melons. Come along, Deacon, Miss Bryan. He expecting some old rip like you come soon."